My husband locked the bedroom door, then told me it was time to confess. I still remember the exact sound the door made when it clicked shut. Not slammed, just locked. Quiet. Deliberate. I turned around, confused. My husband, Daniel, stood in front of the door, holding the key in his hand like it weighed 100 pounds. His face didn't show anger, just something else, something colder. "We need to talk," he said. And this time, no more lies. I felt my heart drop. We had been married for almost 8 years. We'd survived job losses, late-night arguments, and moments I thought would break us. But lately, something had shifted. He was distant, quiet, always watching me like he was searching for something I wasn't saying. At first, I thought it was just work stress. Then, I blamed myself. Maybe I wasn't present enough. Maybe I had grown too silent, too caught up in our daughter's routine, the dishes, the bills, the everything. But now, locked inside that bedroom, I knew something was coming. And whatever it wasn't small. He stepped closer, eyes locked on mine. "Before I say anything," he whispered, "I need you to tell me the truth. All of it." My mouth went dry. What truth was he talking about? I had nothing to confess, or at least I thought I didn't. But then he pulled something from the drawer. A letter. Folded. Worn at the edges. "You dropped this behind the dresser." I read it. I stared at the paper in his hand. My past, something I had buried deep, long before we met, was now here, shaking in the palm of my husband's hand. And in that moment I knew everything was about to change. But what he said next left me frozen. He didn't even blink as he handed me the letter. I took it with trembling fingers, barely able to breathe. I didn't need to open it. I already knew what it was. That letter was from a time I'd tried to forget. Years ago, before I ever met Daniel. It wasn't dangerous. It wasn't illegal. But it held words I'd never spoken out loud. Emotions I had buried. Regrets I had tried to move past. "I don't understand," I said softly, though my voice didn't sound like mine. "Where did you find this?" "Behind the dresser. Fell out when I was looking for the phone charger." He crossed his arms, eyes sharp. "You told me there were no secrets between us. But this isn't just some old memory, is it?" I looked down at the letter, the handwriting faded but still familiar. It was a letter I had written but never sent, to someone who had broken me in ways Daniel never knew. I had poured everything into those pages one late night, thinking it might help me heal. But instead of burning it, I had kept it, tucked away in an old notebook. "I wasn't hiding it from you," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "I just didn't think it mattered anymore." His jaw clenched. "So, who is he?" The question cut through me. "He was no one," I replied quickly, maybe too quickly. "It was before you. It doesn't mean anything now." "But it meant something then," Daniel shot back. "And you never told me." There was a pause, the kind that stretches long and heavy in a room where too much has just been said. "I trusted you," he continued, quieter now. "All these years. I never once thought I had to question who you were." I felt the guilt rising like a wave. Not because I had done something wrong recently, but because I had let him believe he knew everything about me, when really I'd hidden a part of myself. A part one thought would never matter again. But maybe it did matter. Maybe it mattered more than I'd realized. He looked at me again, this time not with anger, but something else. Fear. And that's when I knew he hadn't told me everything either. Daniel sat down on the edge of the bed, elbows on his knees, rubbing his temples like he was trying to hold something in. I stood there, still holding the letter, unsure what to say. 1,000 words circled in my head, but none felt like the right ones. "I didn't want to find this," he said after a long pause. "I wasn't snooping. I wasn't looking for trouble. But when I read it, I started wondering how much of our life has been built on half-truths." My chest tightened. I didn't blame him. If the roles were reversed, I might have reacted the same. But I also knew this letter wasn't what he thought. It wasn't about love. It wasn't a confession of some deep, ongoing affair. It was pain on paper. It was me trying to heal. "I was broken when I wrote that," I said, sitting across from him. "It was before you. Before I even knew what real love felt like." He looked up at me. Then why keep it? I hesitated. I had asked myself that same question more than once. Because it reminded me of how far I've come. It reminded me never to let someone destroy me like that again. Daniel looked away, staring at the floor. And yet, you still couldn't trust me with it. There was no easy response. But then his voice shifted. Lower. I need to ask you something, and I want the truth this time. My heart pounded. He reached for the nightstand drawer again. This time, it wasn't a letter he pulled out, but a small photo. Faded. Torn at the corner. It was a woman I didn't recognize. Her eyes were kind, but sad. Do you know her? He asked. I took the photo carefully. Studied it. Something about her felt oddly familiar, like a shadow from a dream. I shook my head slowly.
No.
Who is she? Daniel didn't answer right away. He took a deep breath, like whatever he was about to say could change everything. She came by the house last week.
Said she knew you.
Said she had something to tell me about you, something you'd never admit. I froze. The room went silent. And for the first time, I started to wonder if this was about more than just a forgotten letter. My fingers tightened around the photo, as if holding it any looser might let the truth slip out. She said she knew me? I asked slowly, trying to keep my voice steady. Did she give you a name? Daniel shook his head. No name. She didn't stay long. She just showed up while you were picking him up from school. Said she didn't mean harm. Just wanted me to know there were things I deserved to learn. About you. My stomach turned. I didn't know her face. But something deep inside me whispered that this wasn't just a misunderstanding. What else did she say? I asked, my voice now just above a whisper. She mentioned a place, Daniel replied, narrowing his eyes. Claremont Hill. Said you used to go there. Said that if I ever doubted her, I should ask you why you stopped visiting. Claremont Hill. The name hit me like a wave. I hadn't thought about that place in years. I used to go there during college before I met Daniel. It was quiet, peaceful, a small garden hidden behind an old chapel. I went there when I was lost after something happened that I never wanted to talk about again. What happened there? Daniel asked. Why does this woman know about it and I don't? I stood up suddenly, trying to calm the rising panic in my chest. That was a long time ago. It was just a place I used to go to think. I never thought it mattered enough to bring up. But it mattered to her, he said sharply. Enough to come to our home. Enough to warn me.
I didn't respond.
I couldn't. My mind was racing. Who was this woman? How did she know me, or think she did? And why now, after all these years? Daniel stood up too, now facing me. Tell me the truth, he said again. Not half of it. Not pieces. Everything. Before I could speak, we both froze. A knock echoed from downstairs. Slow. Intentional.
Daniel looked at me.
It's late, he said. No one knocks this time of night. Another knock. And then a voice, soft, but clear through the silence.
Please.
I need to talk to her. It's time. I didn't move. Neither did Daniel. The voice downstairs was calm, almost too calm, like the person had been rehearsing those words. Please. I need to talk to her. It's time. My heart was pounding so hard I could barely hear anything else. Daniel glanced at me, searching my face for answers I didn't have. Or maybe I did, but I wasn't ready to admit them. Not even to myself. He stepped toward the door, but I grabbed his arm. Don't, I whispered. Not yet. Do you know who that is? He asked. I think I do, I said, though I wasn't entirely sure. He looked toward the hallway. Then we can't ignore it. I didn't want to go downstairs. I wanted to pretend this night wasn't happening. That we could just go back to the version of our life where everything was ordinary, school lunches, tired kisses, grocery lists, laughter that sometimes felt too far away. But I nodded. We walked slowly. Every step felt like it echoed. When we reached the door, Daniel looked through the peephole and stiffened. It's her, he said. The same woman from last week. He opened the door, just a crack. She stood there, calm, her coat soaked from the light rain that had started falling. Her eyes met mine instantly, like she'd been waiting for this moment for years. I didn't mean to scare you, she said gently. but I've been patient long enough. Who are you? I asked, my voice shaking. She looked at me with a strange mix of sorrow and determination. My name is Claire, and I think I might be your sister. The world tilted. Daniel turned to me, stunned. You have a sister? I shook my head, feeling cold all over.
No.
I don't. I was an only child. My parents. She stepped forward, pulling something from her bag. A small envelope.
Old.
Faded. Your parents weren't who they said they were, Claire said. And they weren't mine either. We were both adopted. I've spent years tracking you down. My mind was spinning. This couldn't be real. Daniel took the envelope from her and glanced inside. A birth certificate. A photo of 2 babies side by side in a hospital bassinet. And a document with both our names, last name matching. I didn't come here to ruin your life, Claire said quietly. But there are things you need to know. Things your husband deserves to know too. What things? Daniel asked. Claire hesitated, her eyes on me. Things that connect to your past. And to the man you wrote that letter about. I stared at her, unable to breathe. The man from my past. The one I had loved and feared. Claire's voice dropped to a whisper. He's not gone. He never was. And that's when I realized this wasn't about secrets anymore. It was about danger. And it had just found its way back into my life. I stood frozen, my legs barely holding me up. Claire's words echoed in my ears. He's not gone. That couldn't be true. It had been over a decade since I walked away from him. Since I wrote that letter and buried that chapter of my life for good. I saw him, Claire continued, 6 months ago. He's been using a different name, living just a few towns over. And I think he's been watching you. Daniel looked at me, his face pale. Is this who the letter was about? The man who hurt you? I nodded slowly, feeling like I was underwater. His name was Owen. He wasn't just a bad relationship. He was obsessive. Controlling. I left without warning. Changed my number. Moved cities. I never told anyone. Claire stepped forward, her voice calm but firm. I found out about him while tracing our adoption records. He was involved in both our pasts, even before we were born. I think he might be our biological father. My breath caught. What? I don't have proof yet, she said. But the timelines match. The locations. The names on the old hospital logs. I think he tracked you down years ago, pretended to be someone else, and manipulated you without you even knowing who he really was. I backed away, heart pounding. It all suddenly made sense. The strange calls I got last month, the man standing by the school fence last week, the feeling that someone was always just there. Daniel didn't hesitate. He grabbed his phone. We're calling the police. But just as he dialed, another knock hit the door. This time, not calm.
Loud. Urgent.
Claire's eyes widened. It's him. I know it. Daniel stepped toward the door. I'll handle it.
No.
I cried. Don't open it. But before I could stop him, the door flew open. A man stood there.
Tall.
Older. Weathered. And smiling. I've waited long enough, he said quietly. It's time we all sat down and talked. As a family. And that's when I saw it. The same birthmark I had on my left wrist, right there on his. Everything I thought I knew about my past shattered in that moment. Because the man I feared was the man I came from. I couldn't move. I just stared at him. This stranger, who was somehow a part of me. The man who had haunted my past, twisted my memories, and now stood at my front door claiming to be family. The silence between us felt heavy, like the weight of years finally demanding to be acknowledged. Daniel stepped in front of me, protective as ever, but I gently placed my hand on his arm. It's okay, I whispered. I needed to hear what he had to say. We sat in the living room, the 4 of us. The rain tapped lightly against the windows, as if even the sky was waiting. He introduced himself as Charles, not Owen, explaining that the name I knew him by was part of a life he had left behind. He told us about the adoption, how Claire and I were separated at birth to avoid questions, how our mothers never knew about each other. He spoke about his mistakes, his obsession, his need for control, his inability to love the right way. I never knew how to be a father, he admitted, his voice quiet. But I never stopped wanting to protect you, even if I went about it all wrong. Claire sat quietly beside me, her expression unreadable. I didn't know what to feel: anger, sadness, confusion. Maybe all of them. But most of all, I felt tired. Tired of carrying secrets. Tired of living in fear. I didn't forgive him that night. Some wounds run too deep for quick healing. But I also didn't slam the door in his face. Maybe that was enough for now. Daniel took my hand when we walked him out. No more questions. No more locked doors. Just quiet understanding. Later that night, as we lay in bed, Daniel whispered, "I'm proud of you for facing all of this." And I realized something important. The past doesn't go away just because we hide it. But the truth, even when it's painful, has a strange way of setting you free. I don't know what the future holds with Claire or Charles. But I do know this: I'm not afraid anymore. Because for the first time in a long time, my story is finally mine to tell.